Hi, my name is Mark Everett of the Block Factory, and in this demonstration I'd like to show the users of the Block Factory how to change the gaps, or in this case overlay, of the cabinets so that they change. When I zoom in here, you'll notice that I have them set as a standard on the sides at 16th, in between an eighth, and then at the top an eighth. And I had someone ask me how to go about changing the gap at the top here to a quarter, but leaving all the rest of the gaps being the same. So what I did was I brought this particular cabinet in with the 3 drawers equal at the bottom and a 6-inch drawer at the top to demonstrate it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this cabinet just to kind of give you an idea what it does affect. So first of all, when I take this particular block and open it in the block editor, and you'll see the 2 parameters that I've set to it, height and width. Now we're not going to do much here, or nothing at all with the width here because of this demonstration changing the top gap to a quarter. So basically I could zoom in, I could pick on this particular object and stretch it down by 1/8 of an inch, which is what I'm going to do anyway, so I'll go ahead and do that. But you'll notice this is no longer 6, it's 5 7/8. And if your intentions are to keep that at 6 and make these 3 drawers equal as they were originally, you'd stretch that down, but then you're going to have to stretch this one back down by 1/8 of an inch, including the pull. Now let's go back up here, and you'll notice that when I pick on this particular pull block that's inside this cabinet, you want to move that down, and then that should be okay. That's 3, this is 6 inches, so that should be okay. Now the next thing I need to do is change these 3 drawers to be equal, and what I'd like to do is draw a line down and stretch it past the drawer bottom a 1/16 of an inch, and then draw or stretch it up a 1/16 of an inch at the top. And what that does is basically gives me a line through from center to what would be the center of a drawer to make these 3 equal. Now I'm going to go over to the divide command and divide this by 3, and then take a line from there through the drawers. Now when I stretch, I want to stretch through, covering the pull of that particular drawer. And then I'm going to pick a midpoint between 2 points, midpoint between 2 points, perpendicular. Do the same thing for the bottom drawer. Go through the pull, remove that line, find midpoint between 2 points, perpendicular, and we're done. Now a tool that I like to use a lot just to check these is a circle. So I'm going to draw a circle from here. You'll see the readout is 7.95833. I'm going to pick that. Now when I draw my next circle, I'm not going to go down and actually pick the point. I'm just going to hit return or the right key on my button on my mouse, and you'll notice it snaps automatically, and it tells me that that was stretched properly. I'm going to do the last one, and it looks like they're all okay. Now, just so you know, the first stretch keeps the drawer, the 6-inch drawer at the top, as 6 inches. We're stretching through the bottom or the next drawer down, and we're well below the joints that separate the 2 drawers, so the little bit of change that we just did doesn't affect the window that was made around it originally, so you won't have to redo the window around that particular item, changing the action. The second one, the same thing. We stretched within that window, so we didn't affect it at all. And again, the last one was the same. You can see the window's far, so we didn't change that at all. Now let's just demonstrate that this did work. First of all, while we're inside of this, you can see it's a quarter. This stayed a 6-inch drawer, and of course the 1/8 inch gap. So let's go over to the block editor, hit test, and this is what you would see the block. If you're not familiar with the block editor test, this is what the block would look like if it's changed, saved, and you gotten out of the block altogether. So I'm going to change the width by, I don't know, say 15. That didn't change much because the gaps on the sides didn't change. But let's go ahead and make this 32.5, which would be what the cabinet would be. Let me do that again. Let's go over to here. 32.5. And that would be what it would be from the bottom of the counter to the floor on a 34-inch cabinet. Now, you'll see that that left the gap at the top a quarter, a 6-inch drawer, and the next 3 drawers should be the same. So I'm going to draw a circle from here down. You'll see it's 7.29166. I'm going to go to the next one and just hit return. Pick this one, hit return, and you'll notice that they're equal. So it looks like our demonstration was successful for that particular cabinet. So if you, hopefully that gives you an idea of what you need to do to change that particular. It's not a whole lot, but just giving you an idea of what it does affect. Now let's open this particular block. This is a 1-drawer, 2-door standard base cabinet. And again, this one here right now presently is an 1/8. But if you wanted to change it like before, you go in here, stretch it down an 1/8. Then we'd want to do another stretch in this particular area covering the pulls. Make sure your ortho's on. Now, as before, these pulls here, you'll notice that that point's picked up, so you have to move those down. And the center point changed by 1/16 of an inch. So let's do a window around here. And let's find the midpoint of that door. Okay, now that that's fixed, let's look at the action sets. This one again crosses over the upper portion of the door, including the pulls. The second one, all that does is recenter this. And as long as it's centered to begin with, then by centering it, if you go over to your properties, you can see that it's set to 0.5. And that basically will center it within that door, no matter how high you stretch the cabinet. Now, let's go over to the block editor, go to test, and let's stretch the door, the cabinet down to 32.5 like we did before. You got a 1/4 inch gap, a 6-inch drawer front, and the door. Let's just check the centering of this particular door, and you can see that it worked. And I can stretch this up to, I don't know, let's say 40 inches, just as a, it just recenters the door hinging symbol on the front of the door. So I hope that's helpful in explaining a little bit about how you would change the gaps in there without having to change the actions that are applied to these parameters that are in here. What I would recommend is maybe take these blocks, if you're experimenting, as I've done, is just pull them out of that original folder and put them into a junk folder, drawing or whatever, and test it out and get familiar with how they all work, and then go back to your originals and change it. Or maybe you make a copy before you go through and do all these changes and apply them to your tool palette after you're done, because they won't recognize all these changes that you have done to them. So let me exit out of here. I hope that's helpful, and you'll visit the Block Factory or tell others about it to visit the Block Factory and purchase this package. Thank you very much.